Ata for getting hurt and upset over a harmless prank my husband pulled? So, me and my husband have been married for 5 years. We are currently F24 and M33. Way before we met, when I was 16, my mom's house had a house fire that burnt literally everything down. And sadly, my childhood cat was also killed in it. I remember my mom and brother waking me up screaming, "Fire, fire, get up, get up." We crawled out under the smoke, and luckily my neighbors had already called the fire department and they pulled us out. We lost literally everything. We were devastated. So that was a while ago, but it still really scares me, and I check outlets and our stove and candles and everything all the time. My husband knows this about me. So 2 nights ago I went to bed early because I am currently 34 weeks pregnant, literally about to pop. I was sleeping for a while before, for some reason, my husband decided to wake me up by yelling, "Baby, there's a fire, 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 get up." As quick as I could get up at 34 weeks, I did and grabbed my purse. I was just in automatic shock and just autopilot and knew I needed what to grab. I made it all the way down the stairs, yelling for my husband to follow me, before he started laughing and telling me it was a joke. It took a minute for that to process. I stood there with an open mouth while he laughed and ushered me down the rest of the stairs. I sat down on the couch and just started sobbing. It was genuinely the hardest I've ever sobbed. Like I couldn't get myself to stop and my whole body was shaking. My heart was racing and I couldn't breathe. I have never had this experience before. I was genuinely so panicked. I was so fucking upset. My husband apologized and was like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. It was just a joke." I just cried until he eventually was like, "What the fuck? It was just a prank. This is really dramatic." After a few hours, I'd calmed myself down and went to apologize to him. He wouldn't take it. He said I was being overdramatic and made him feel like shit for a harmless prank. So I guess, Ata, I've never been good at taking jokes. I've been trying to be less sensitive, but IDK. Relevant comment. You went to apologize to him. You were in a tragic event and have been mentally preparing for it just in case. That is some PTSD, but a normal reaction. He took advantage of your fear. He needs to apologize to you. Commenter. Came here to say this exact thing. NTA. Your husband owes you a massive apology. Even if you didn't have a serious trauma around fires, this isn't a funny prank to play on anything, especially someone heavily pregnant. WTF is wrong with your husband? Commenter. Her husband not only owes her a massive apology, he needs to grow the fuck up. That was not a prank. He knew he was causing her pain. He knew her history with fire and chose to use his knowledge to cause her harm for his own entertainment. Sis, how often are you the butt of his jokes? Just once is too. Commenter. There's a reason a 28-year-old married a 19-year-old. No woman his age would take his shit. Who knows how long they even dated? He might have gone after her when she was underage. Another comment. NTA. WTF is wrong with him for abusing your past trauma for a prank? WTF is wrong with him for making an expectant mother fear for her life just for shits and giggles? WTF is wrong with him for putting the burden of guilt on you when his life and death joke made you upset? Commenter. WTF is he thinking making a half-asleep, very pregnant, probably off-balance and terrified woman rush downstairs? Commenter. The stress and adrenaline could have sent her into early labor. OP should let him know his prank endangered her and the baby. Dramatic for crying? He's lucky he's still breathing after pulling that despicable stunt. Another comment. No, you're absolutely ente. That wasn't a harmless prank when he knows your past trauma. It also wouldn't have been a harmless prank, even without that trauma, because you are pregnant. The adrenaline spike from something like that could have easily sent you into preterm labor. And while I'm sure you feel ready to pop, you're not yet full term and the baby's lungs are the last to develop. He's definitely the AH, but more than that, that was psychological abuse. It was not a prank, it was not funny, and it very well could have done physical harm as well. And now he's trying to gaslight you into thinking that you're the problem. Please be very careful and keep yourself safe. Commenter. And if he was a decent guy who made a mistake, he would have held you and rocked you until you calmed down and apologized until he was hoarse. My ex, who turned out to be a child abuser, would always get mad when I would tell him he hurt me. It's a huge red flag. Another comment. How often does your husband play pranks on you? How often does he make jokes at your expense? The fact that you were 19 when you married a 28-year-old is concerning. My guess is he is trying to put you in your place now that you are getting older and might see him for who he is. NTA. Commenter. Why did I have to scroll down so far for someone to mention this age gap? 19 and married. They're in an entirely different stage of life. I keep seeing these posts and I feel like most of them are fake. I'm not sure how you can read 250 comments and still try and wiggle out of the fact that 1, the age gap is, and 2, the guy has the maturity of a soiled watermelon. ATA for starting the divorce process after finding out my daughter isn't mine? Advice needed. My life feels like a bad drama show at the moment. For some context, me, 33M, and my wife, 30F, have been married for 7 years, and what I thought was our daughter is 3. Looking back, this all started after my wife gave birth to her daughter. She suddenly became a lot more affectionate to me, was a lot more active with me in the bedroom life. She also made my favorite desserts a lot more often. She is a fantastic baker. I, of course, didn't suspect anything since even prior to her pregnancy there were no signs of cheating, but also possibly could be that just didn't look close enough into it. Well, this whole fiasco started 2 weeks ago, after a day out with her daughter, and she just sat me down in the evening and came clean about the fact that her daughter wasn't mine. Her waterworks, of course, also started, and apparently it was a guy from the gym, and it lasted a month before he disappeared on her, after he found out she was pregnant. Honestly, even typing this now, I feel like crying since I thought I did everything perfectly. But she still cheated. As much as I wish I could say I had a stone face or something, I just started crying, and she tried to comfort me, but I just pushed her away. I felt so disgusted with her. After I had calmed down a bit, I just grabbed my jacket and left for a hotel. And while I was leaving, she just begged and pleaded me to forgive her, and that I was the only father her daughter knew. After crying myself to sleep in the hotel the next day, after I turned my phone back on, I had seen she had blown up my phone, and I didn't read any of it, and just blocked her. I, after having a little bit of breakfast, contacted a lawyer to start the divorce process. And at work, I just asked for some time off, and my boss gave me a month off. By the evening, my mom and sister were calling me on her behalf and were on her side, and that just hurt me even more. While I'm not proud to admit this, I did drink myself to sleep that night. After that night, I started staying with my best friend, and my mom and sister kept spamming and calling me. A few days later, after she probably got the divorce papers, my mom just sent me a long text that, to summarize, was that I should step up and forgive her and not abandon my daughter, and that she would disown me if I went through with the divorce. My sister and mom are against me divorcing her, but my best friend and his wife are saying I have the right to not want to be with her or take care of her kid. I'm split on this. On one hand, I did raise the baby for 3 years. On another, I don't know if I could, in the right mind, raise the reminder of my wife, her affair. Edit 1. To put some context, my sister is infertile, so I think that's also partly why my mom doesn't want me to continue the divorce, since she will lose her grandchild. Relevant comment. Entita. Your wife also lied to you every single day for 3 years. Commenter. Closer to 4. He went through her pregnancy and all that entails being lied to as well. Commenter. Who knows how long her affair with Jim Boy was? Could have been a while before he knocked OP's wife up. Tell you mom and sister you will divorce, find a loyal, faithful new wife, have lots of kids. And if they want a relationship with their real grandkids, nieces, nephews, they will shut the hell up and support their son, brother, not the lying, cheating adulterer. Or if they don't, you will NC the two of them. Another comment. Even if you love the kid, it doesn't change the fact that your wife betrayed you and lied about it for years. I'd say NTA. Commenter. Exactly. It's not just the betrayal, the 3 years of covering it up. I suspect she waited those years to create this situation, so you wouldn't just leave. Commenter. I suspect she waited those years to create this situation, so you wouldn't just leave. I was thinking the same thing. Maybe she was hoping OP would get attached to the kid by now and wouldn't leave. She immediately begged for forgiveness and asked OP not to leave. She didn't even give OP room to collect their thoughts or make their own decision. It's also suspicious why she's bringing it up now. I wonder if the biofather is trying to come back in the picture and the wife is freaked out now. Another comment. Ask your sister if she'd raise her husband's affair baby, and ask your mom if that's what she did to your dad, and that's why they're so supportive of cheating. Another comment. This happened to you, not to your mom and not to your sister. You will have to find a way to deal with this immense betrayal and pain in a way that is best for you. During this healing phase, you need to surround yourself with those who support you, and block, temporarily or indefinitely, those making this hell even harder for you. You will break down. Doubt. You want a divorce, you get a divorce. No discussion. Also, if you do want to remain in the child's life, understand that you don't have to be married to the mother in order to do so. I take it you're on the birth certificate? Remaining in the child's life might end up being very painful for you in the future, should the child decide to seek out and build a relationship with their biological father. It might also be the case that the child will bring you love and happiness, albeit a complicated form of love and happiness. This is something you will consider as time passes. Whatever you chose is your prerogative. Some will agree, some won't. It's not about them. I'd continue with the divorce, as that seems to be your strongest instinct, and take it from there. NTA, ATIA, for not giving my stepdaughter an inheritance. My 32F husband passed away earlier this year. Our children, 6F, 3M, and I inherited his entire estate, which in total is worth almost $1 million. When he was in high school, my husband had a child, 16F, with his girlfriend at that time. He broke up with his girlfriend once he found out she was pregnant, saying he wasn't ready to be a father yet. He visited her maybe once every few years when he was alive. My stepdaughter and her mother are very poor. They have struggled financially ever since my husband's death, as they no longer receive child support. They're struggling to pay rent and risk getting evicted. My stepdaughter reached out to me, begging for her share of the inheritance. I feel bad for her, but my husband clearly stated in his will that he wanted to leave his estate to me and my children only. I barely even know my stepdaughter, and I don't think it's my responsibility to take care of her. She's furious with me, calling me a heartless gold digger and saying that giving her money was the least I could do to make up for years of neglect. Aya, relevant comment. It says a lot about your character that you went along with a neglectful deadbeat and still carry that torch of negligence even after his death. I hope you don't have the nerve to delude yourself into believing that your husband was a good person and good father. In different circumstances, he could have abandoned your children, like he did her, through no fault of their own. Depending on where you live, his will might be irrelevant. If he never paid child support, his first BM might be able to sue his estate for back payment. Or stepdaughter might herself be entitled to a proportional share of inheritance. Edit, YTA, just seen about the child support. Why would this not continue until she was 18? But for his death, would he still be paying? Another comment. YTA, your husband was Major TA, had a child, and basically acted like she did not exist. Of course, he would not put her in his will. But you know she is his child. You know she is struggling. There is no reason, with the amount of money you received, that you could not help her out. First of all, by continuing said child support until she is 18 or finished college. You could also put some in a trust for his stepdaughter. Do you have to help her? Legally, no. But if you can sleep at night knowing you have funds to help her, but you choose not to, then you are no better than your husband was. Commenter. Absolutely agree with this. Also, depending on where OP and the stepdaughter are living, the stepdaughter, as well as OP's children, may be entitled to some type of benefit considering the father died. It may be worth the two mothers getting together and looking into that in order to benefit all of the children. Especially since it would be better than the stepdaughter's mother contesting the will or suing the estate for support for the stepdaughter. Which, considering OP mentions there was child support prior to her husband's death, has a fair chance of working in the stepdaughter's favor. It is also worth considering that this girl is OP's children's half-sibling, and they very well could all want to establish a relationship in the future when they are all adults. OP may want to provide some support in order to be able to tell her own kids that she didn't leave their sister with nothing while they lived the good life. Another comment. First off, I'm sorry for your loss, but YTA. She might be your stepdaughter, who you don't really know, but she is your husband's child. You should at least give her the equivalent of what your husband would have paid in child support, since he would have had to pay until she was 18. Honestly, I'm not even going to go into the fact that it seems like he abandoned his child. It may not be your direct responsibility, but the right thing to do is to help your stepdaughter out because she and her mom are clearly struggling. Who knows? Maybe you two will develop a good relationship. Commenter. No, she resents this child for existing. She won't do anything for her. YTA, OP, another comment. YTA, and so is your husband. Just because he was a poor excuse for a father doesn't mean you should support him or his bad behaviors. How would you feel if he did that to your kids? He has a responsibility to support his offspring. Whether he wanted kids at that time or not, he made the choice to have sex, which led to pregnancy. He can't dump everything on the EXGF and act like he has no responsibility. He has all the responsibility. And if they take you to court, you'd lose. Commenter. Wow, your husband was a horrible father. He stuck his unwrapped dick into someone and then bailed. He was never there for his child and only paid the absolute minimum he legally had to. And then he doesn't even want to give his child a fraction of his money? And you married a guy like that? Who cares what his wishes were? They were morally wrong. Do the right thing. Or don't. But then it's clear why you married him. You have the same morals after all. YTA. Aita for taking my ring back from my fiancé and calling off the wedding after learning crucial truth about her. This is going to be very long sub. I apologize advance in for that. I just don't have anyone to share and ask advice. I still can't believe everything happened so fast. Me, 27M, and my ex-fiancée Julie, 27F, have been dating for 5 years now. We were pretty serious about our relationship up until now. I am questioning about my choice in women. I grew up in a big family. My parents have 5 kids. My 2 older sister, me and my twin sister, and my younger brother. The eldest of us, Aliana, 32F, was set to marry one of our parents' friend's son, Theo, 36M. Aliana was very intelligent among all of us. She went to a prestigious college. It was a pretty big deal since we are from a second world-class country. She was supposed to marry Theo 10 years ago. Right on the wedding day, she ran away. We had no clue where she went to. I assumed she left early in the morning. The wedding was supposed to happen during afternoon. My second eldest sister, Eleanor, 29F, was helping with everything around the preparation. My parents didn't want to distress Aliana that day much, so most of the work shifted on Eleanor. Our parents didn't trust me because I was 17 and others because they were young. Eleanor was quite busy as the guests started to arrive soon. Soon enough, we realized Aliana was nowhere to be found. We called Theo's parents, who hurriedly came over and resort. We rented a resort for the whole day. It was quite expensive since the eldest of both families are getting married. They were panicking because guests started to arrive and they will lose face. Suddenly they targeted Eleanor to be the bride. Eleanor at first tried to reason with them, telling how it doesn't work like that, but Theo's family was having none of it. It was mainly their idea. My parents chipped in when our grandparents got involved. Theo was silent at the whole situation. He was a spineless loser, that's what I first thought. But looking back, he was just shocked, as everyone around back then. He left the room and some of the Mann family went after him so he wouldn't do anything stupid. Eleanor was forced to get ready. She couldn't run away as there was multiple women keeping an eye on her. She was crying at first but got scolded by our mother and grandmother for that. They got married. My sister was supposed to enroll in a collage that year. She was only 19 back then. I was 17, so was my twin. And the youngest of the family was only 12. Theo's parents didn't let Eleanor to enroll in a collage, which left her pretty devastated. They feared that if Eleanor had a chance she would run away. She could only visit our house once a month. Our parents were sympathetic, but they told her to suck it up as she wasn't their responsibility after her marriage. Their word. Because of that, she stopped talking about her problems to them. She would talk to me about her problems as all she wanted was mental support. Theo and Eleanor's marriage wasn't great either. She didn't graphically explain their lives, but with the pieces of information, I could tell that was just a cold-hearted bastard. I am not afraid to call him out, even if I see him now. He never acknowledged Eleanor as she wasn't supposed to be his wife in the first place. He dismissed her. He earns a lot. He is an engineer and he took care of his family as well as his younger sister. 3 months after their wedding, my sister came in our parents' house with a bruised arm. We learned that Theo sometimes used force on her to shut her up, tightly grabbing wrist or arms tightly. That's what my sister mentioned. I stupidly confirmed him in person that day, which led to a huge argument. I was grounded for meddling in my sister's marriage, and my sister's monthly turned into 1 visit in 4 months. Eleanor came 6 months later, finally, with an obvious baby bump. Eleanor and I talked very rarely after that. She wouldn't tell me anything as she was afraid that I will confront Theo. She can't divorce him as my parents wouldn't take her in, and the society we are in looks down at divorced women, so she leaned on working things out with. Around 3 years ago, Theo left our current city with Eleanor and their 2 sons. Eleanor was 6 months pregnant with my niece that they shifted in the capital of our country, which was 10 hours away from our current city. After shifting there, they went in extreme low contact to my family. I met Julie, Theo's younger sister, because of my twin. They are inseparable best friends. Me and my twin didn't have anything in common, so I hang out with her very less, and didn't knew most of her friends. My twin, Lily, set me on a blind date with Julie. We clicked and been dating since that blind date. Thought I met the one. Clearly I was wrong. I proposed to Julie on the May. I was saving up for the marriage. I didn't want it a big ceremony. Just a small ceremony with few relatives and friends. It'll be less than 60 people. My eldest sister, Aliana, suddenly made contacts with us after almost 10 years, which was shocking. She introduced us to her kids and husband. He is married to a lawyer and have 2 girls under 5. I wasn't thrilled to meet her. We went through humiliation due to her sudden cold feet. Aliana tried to reason with me when I made it clear I am not thrilled to see her again. I also noticed Aliana was very close to Lily and Julie. Told Julie I am not comfortable with her suddenly being close to my sister. I said it's better if we put some boundaries. She agreed, but she didn't keep my words for a long time. My parents threw us welcome dinner for Aliana and my engagement news last week. We were getting tipsy by the end of party. I didn't drink because I need to drive back in my apartment and I need to drop off Julie and her parents in their house as well. We don't live together. One point at the dinner, Aliana thanked Julie for helping her to run away back then, because if she didn't listen to her, she might have never met her love of life, husband. Julie laughed like crazy by saying she did that for her own benefit as well. They are tipsy drunk, so they kept talking. Julie was explaining how she helped Aliana figure everything out. Her mom tried to stop her, but she kept rambling. At one point, she suddenly said, I thought, if Aliana ran away, you guys will just deal with it. But you guys made Eleanor and married her off to Theo. Things didn't go as I planned it would. That caught my attention greatly, so I asked her mother to interrupt her and she got defensive. Hurriedly, took Julie home. I asked Julie few days later about it and she was keep avoiding the topic, saying she was drunk and didn't think before speaking. I gave her an ultimatum of if she didn't tell me about it, I will break off the engagement. She panicked and came over in my apartment to talk. So basically, she wanted her best friend to marry her brother. She knew Aliana wasn't into Theo at all, but she didn't have the guts to say no to their wedding. At one point, she accepts her fate, but Julie, she encouraged her to find her true man. Julie said, she didn't think my parents will drag Eleanor in this mess. She was dumb and stupid. She was 17, just like me. I was angry but kept my composure. Then she dropped the bombshell on me. Julie tried to break Eleanor and Theo, as she wanted Lily as her sister-in-law. Theo is fairly an attractive guy, he had a lot admirers in his student life. Julie went as far as sending his admirers Eleanor's phone number and contact information. She would get harassed daily due to those people. My sister stopped using social media long ago. Later, Theo also took her phone away. We thought it was because of his toxic nature, but no, he was doing it because he didn't want anyone to harass his pregnant wife. Julie didn't stop there. She began to talk about Theo's ex-girlfriends and flings to Eleanor. Eleanor would get upset and bring those girls up during arguments, and then Theo would grip her arms or wrists tightly to the point it would leave red bruises. It went on for a few years. Then Theo found out who was telling this whole scheme. He was upset and angry. This is why Theo took Eleanor and their kids. They went low contact with us because of it. Theo wanted to fix things between them after they had their first baby, but since Eleanor would bring up his exes or Aliana, Julie wanted to put a wedge between them. When Theo found out, he went no contact with his side of family and low contact with us. Worst of all is, Lily was part of this. I couldn't bear to listen to how she tried to mess up two people's life. I yanked the ring off her finger and took away my apartment keys before kicking her out. I can't possibly marry this girl. Never in my wildest dreams. I called up Lily, thinking she was victim or Julie's manipulation. To my surprise, she wasn't. She also liked Theo. She said she would try to get touchy with him during the time Eleanor would visit us. Theo would ignore her or brush her off. She shamelessly admitted that she tried to offer herself to him. Theo flat out said Eleanor was better looking than her. Plus, he have dignity not to cheat on his wife. After that incident, Theo would stick with Eleanor all the time when he visits us. They don't visit our parents' house anymore. Now I know why. I don't blame them honestly. I called Eleanor a few minutes ago, asking her about her whereabouts. She sounded very happy and invited me to come over someday and meet them. I guess the news didn't reach her yet. By the night, everyone calling me. Apparently word got out that I took Julie's ring. Julie admitted her mistakes, and everyone is saying I should forgive her because she was young and dumb. My problem is, I get the helping Aliana running away but putting Eleanor into mental stress for 7 years? She was an adult that time. I tried to reason with everyone, but they are saying I should meddle into my sister's marriage. So Aita for breaking off my engagement after I learning what she did to my sister and brother-in-law? Relevant comment. I'm sorry. If this is real, it makes me so cross. Eleanor was fucking sold to Theo to keep the peace. Dear God, your parents are shits. Commenter. What kind of people force their daughter into marriage on the spot like that? That is slavery. Selling a human like they did. Kind that looks at a daughter as a burden and not a part of the family. My parents have been asked why they didn't have another real kid since I am an only child and a daughter. Another comment. NTA. What Julie and Lily did was not a teenage mistake. It was a calculated campaign of manipulation and cruelty that impacted your sister's life and marriage. You're really, really right not to want to marry someone capable of such malicious action. Commenter. NTA. Julie and Lily's actions go far beyond a simple teenage mistake. They engaged in a deliberate and harmful campaign that had serious repercussions on your sister's life and marriage. Your decision to distance yourself from someone capable of such cruelty is completely justified. Ada. Kicking my niece out for letting her friends hurt my dog. So for backstory, I 20F have a sister 27F, who is a struggling addict. She had a daughter when she was 15, we will call her Mary 12F. I agreed to take Mary in a few months ago because my apartment has a spare bedroom and if not, she would go into foster care. My sister warned me before I took her in that she was misbehaved, but she was clearly under the influence, so I chalked it up to my sister saying things. A few weeks ago, I come home to find Mary sending explicit pictures to men in the bathroom, and after going through her phone, I found some of them were as old as 17 to 18. I took her to a therapist because I believed she was doing things like that because of trauma, and she was using that to cope. From what I was told, she has been opening up well. However, when I came home last night from a date at around 10 p.m., I found my apartment trashed and my dog scared, crying, and shaking in the corner of the room. I didn't see Mary, so my mind went to the worst. assuming someone had broken in. I go into Mary's room, finding her all giggles and smiley. I asked her what the f happened to my house, and she said that she had a few friends over. Just to be clear, I don't mind if she has friends over, but the rule is that she asks first and I have to be home in case anything happens. I tell her she knows better than to have friends over when I'm not home and ask her why my dog is crying. She doesn't answer, so I tell her to go clean the mess that was made, and I went to check on my dog. I got close to her, trying to pet her legs like I always do, and she snapped, something she has never done before, and then saw blood around her mouth. I decide to take her to the vet. When we get there, they see my dog and inform me that one of her back legs is broken, and she appears to be missing 2 teeth. The vet says that he wants to keep my dog overnight, and I agree to it. When we get home, I ask what the happened to my dog, and she tells me that she ate food off the table, so one of her guy friends punished her. I tell her to go to her room and that in the morning someone will be here to take her to her foster home. Some say I am overreacting, others say I'm justified. I just don't want a girl who thinks animal abuse is funny living in my home. TLDR, I decide to take in my niece. I have had issues with her behavior before. When I came home one night, my dog was beaten to the point of having missing teeth and a broken leg. My niece thought it was funny, so I had her removed from my home. AITA, relevant comment. Make sure CPS is aware of this before she is put with animals, small children or babies. Commenter, at her age with sociopathic behavior, she probably won't get fostered and will end up aging out after living in a group home. Commenter, OP should ask for the name and contact info for the fireand who hurt the dog. File a police report and sue for vet bills. Another comment, NTA, kick her ass out. She's a burden, a liability, and a psychopath all rolled into one. You were doing her a favor. And she shit all over that. Her past trauma is perhaps an explanation of her behavior, but it sure as hell isn't an excuse. Commenter, OP should press charges. Trashing the house, animal cruelty, the animal that did this shit should get equal treatment. Commenter, exactly. Find the maniac that hurt his dog and press charges. Also, track down the creeps who accepted her pictures and have them arrested for CP. Another comment, Reddit, I'm with you. This is beyond the pale. To the OP, you opened your home with kindness and got it repaid with a brand of crazy that's egregious even by Madhouse standards. Yes, everyone has a backstory with their own demons to fight. But it's like inviting someone to dinner and they set the tablecloth on fire. There's just no rationalizing with that level of disrespect. Protect your 4-legged family member and get your home back. I'm to show the door to this duo of destruction. Might want to invest in some good locks and cameras while you're at it, because this level of crazy doesn't take a hint easily. NTA. Another comment. Why the hell aren't you calling the police and CPS right now? And why are you leaving a 12-year-old psychopath home alone? Commenter. This, I think OP is kind of for underreacting IMO. Another comment. If anyone ever hurt my little girl intentionally, I'd go at them with all the legal clout in the world. Take your niece, sister, asshole perpetrator if he's around. You are allowed to record without consent in public spaces regardless of jurisdiction, but not always in your home, and ask them separately to explain while you're recording incognito. Then try asking together. Then call the cops, explain the situation, file a report, and share the recording. They can give you their email for documentation as well, and tell the cops about the pictures you witnessed. Ask your vet to document the injuries and get x-rays. Get a copy for yourself. Fuck this scum. If Mary is underage and the perpetrator is an adult, he needs to go to prison. Go to a lawyer. Commenter. I always fear something like that happening in my life so much, and not only because my dog, or any dog, doesn't deserve this, but that I myself may do something unforgivable in response before I know better. Child or not, I would literally give no fucks to hurt them back. NTA op. And while my heart goes to the kid being messed up, safety and integrity of your own household is always above it. You can't offer safety and not have it in the first place. Aita for being mad that my husband thinks I tricked him with our child's birth certificate. I want to give some backstory to explain where I am coming from and why this situation is so hurtful for me. My husband and I come from similar backgrounds. Our families were paycheck to paycheck, and not many went to college. We both have degrees and make significantly more than the rest of our respective families. When we got married, I was already a homeowner of a small house and had a car. My husband, however, had a lot of debt and his credit was trash. It wasn't his fault. He had significant student loans and had frequently had to help his family members with money. He also has ADHD and had mishandled some bills. I was understanding of his situation, but I was also anxious to help him get debt-free so we can have kids without such burdens over us. He was making $80K and I was making $100K. He moved in with me and we split expenses 50-50, except that he didn't have to pay any rent. I fully covered the mortgage and home insurance since he's not on the deed, and I also paid extra into his debt so he can pay it off early. His car loan is in my name and I also cover half of that. I do IT technical support, and I got the opportunity to take a job that required 50% travel but paid a lot more. We together decided that I'd do this job for a few years to significantly shore up our savings and pay off a good portion of the debt. I did this job for a little over 2 years till I got pregnant, and then took a lower paying job, $120K now, which doesn't require travel. The travel job paid more, but it was so hard on me. I was traveling to the back ends of small towns where the big warehouses and data centers are located, and the job is physically demanding. Pulling cables, moving equipment, working in very cold conditions. I was miserable in this job and ended up with some back problems, but it was a sacrifice for our family. When I was 8 months pregnant, my husband asked for a paternity test. It came out of nowhere, and I asked him if he didn't trust me, and he said he did. But because I did so much travel, he just needed some assurance for his peace of mind. He said his family and friends have asked him how he could be so sure of this pregnancy when I have been out of home for so many nights. It really broke my heart that I did so much for this man and didn't try to protect my assets or my money. And he treats me like this. I got very hormonal and cried about it, but he stopped pressuring me then. Now our son is 3 months old, and he's back at it again. He's put his foot down that I need to have the paternity test done, and he won't sign the birth certificate otherwise. I told him his name is already on the BC, as we are married, and I did the paperwork before they discharged us at the hospital. He didn't realize that would be the case, and is furious at me thinking that I tricked him. So here I am stuck married to a man who not only doesn't love me or trust me, but is an idiot. His family is calling me and pressuring me to let him do the test. My family is offended on my behalf, but some mutual friends are saying a test is not a big deal. But it is such a slap in the face after all I have done for him. Am I wrong for how I am feeling? Relevant comment. NTA. How about you tell him that you'll get the paternity test, but in exchange, you want him to sign a postnup that protects your assets and finances, so he's not entitled to half in the event of a divorce? I fear that this isn't the end, and he's only going to get worse. For example, he may get proof that he's the father, but he may not let go of the idea that you may have cheated while traveling, and he'll continue to baselessly accuse you up. That is a really good idea. I am going to look into this more. Thank you. Commenter. He tries to balk about it, could even have a cheating clause in it, or he could get XXX per your lawyer, but otherwise he takes what he brought into the marriage out of it. Commenter. Cheater clause should go both ways. Probable he's the one who's been cheating, and he's projecting. Commenter. Yeah, agree. It's a bit suspicious. Either his family has gotten in his ear about, how dare your wife travel so much for work, it's not normal for women, she might be hiding something. Or he is the one who has something to hide and is projecting. Either way, he is being a bad spouse. Another comment. Get the test so when you divorce, he won't be able to quibble about owing child support. Commenter. Exactly. You have been carrying his ass and he's let his family get in his head. Hand him divorce papers with the results and tell him he needs to go stay with his family since he believes them over you. Commenter. She needs to stop paying for his shit immediately. Let him deal with his own bills. Take the money and hire a great lawyer for advice to proceed. Take the test and post it everywhere the day he's served with divorce papers. Commenter. and keep the car he's driving since it's in her name and she's paying half of the payment. NTA, but your STBX is. Commenter. Men that constantly accuse women of cheating are the ones who are actually doing the cheating. Another comment. NTA, frankly, I would get the paternity test done. Go see a lawyer first and get your finances in order. I would also try and make sure your contributions to his debts up until now are classed as his share of asset. If that's possible, so you don't have to pay anything further to him, but I don't know how these things work. Get the divorce papers sitting ready, and the moment you give the paternity results, hand him the divorce papers also. Then tell him he needs to pack a bag and go live with his parents. That the house is solely in your name and you will have the rest of his stuff packed up for. That from now on, the only contact you will have with him will be regarding your baby. That all visits have to be pre-agreed by you, or you will not open the door to him. He clearly does not trust you or fully love you to demand this, nor could he have any respect for you. Without trust, respect, and love, there can be no marriage. His actions have made sure you can no longer trust him, and you must certainly have lost the last bit of respect for him. Bet your losses and get a good lawyer. Find one that's known to be an attack dog with good record of wins. Since you financially supported your ex for most of the marriage and paid off his debts for him, whilst he paid the bare minimum towards the household, see if you can use that to your favor. Refuse to let him have any access or award to your pension. Oh, and since he's so sure you cheated, investigate, as I believe he thinks that as he cheated himself. It's very common when people become suspicious. It's as they have been cheating themselves. Another comment. NTA. Why hasn't he already paid to have the test himself? He's that lazy and incompetent? And that's your fault somehow? I'd also tell him he gets to pay 100% of his car loan, because clearly you need to be saving money for security. Another comment. Colleague's daughter went through the same thing after her formerly loving husband started following Red Pill YouTube. He actually moved out of the house and said he wouldn't come back until she had the results of the test. She asked him to come back and offered to do the test after the baby was born, as the pre-birth test, and was just over $1 and not covered by insurance. He refused to come home and said he wouldn't be present for the birth. She had the test done, paid on his personal credit card, and told him to come home. She had the results. He came home to find the results on the kitchen table, stapled to the divorce paper. Ironically, he was correct about one thing. He was not present at the birth, despite coming to the hospital and making a scene. And yes, he was the baby's father. My friend said he broke down at the divorce hearing and cried like a baby. Update. ATA for being mad that my husband thinks I tricked him with our child's birth certificate. I had asked about how to deal with my husband wanting a paternity test. We did the test and got the expected results. He wanted to get one that has legal validity, not a home test. It was a lot more expensive and he paid for it. We had to use the agency to swab samples and maintain a chain of custody. I was surprised and bothered that he had this planned, but he covered the high price, and it'd be in my interest to have a clear, indisputable legal trail, so we went and did that. He's been over the moon happy since I agreed to do this, and I resent his happiness. He got the STI panel done, and that was clean too. He was surprised by my request, but didn't argue about it. He said it's just a test, no big deal. He was a lot more weirded out about a post-nup and flat out refused to cooperate. I gave up on that because I consulted a lawyer, and I can't get much from that anyway. Whatever I have spent on him and his debt is gone, and I can't expect anything back. And we are in a community property state. We argued a lot about separating finances with him, accusing me of trying to control him using money. He pointed out that we were a couple years away from him becoming debt-free, and if I leave it all on him, then it'll take him 5+ years. He still does not understand how his showing a lack of trust in me is comparable. He kept arguing that if he were the one with more money, he'd have spent it on me. For me to use this now makes me a bad partner. He came around and agreed to contributing more to bills after seeing how much my family has turned cold towards him. I am close to my family and they had loved him, but this has made them upset at him. My little sister was outright rude to him, which really got to him. He is the middle child and was frequently teased and bullied by his sibling. My sister was the only relative who loved him like an older brother and doted on him. My words and arguments didn't move him, but he got upset about her icing him out, so now he'll be paying for his own car and contributing to insurance and covering his debt by himself. Still no rent, because he simply can't afford it. I wasn't going to ask him to stop supporting his parents, and after all that, there's nothing in his bucket. I wasn't thinking divorce when I wrote the post, and I still don't want it. But I feel like I am falling out of love with this man, like the scales have fallen from my eyes, and all his faults that I had minimized before stand out glaringly. My mother is fully on my side, but she has advised me to not make any quick decisions. I don't know what I'm going to do. He's trying to be helpful and a good partner, but it feels like an act. Relevant comment. Whoa, who could have thought accusing your wife of cheating would negatively impact her feelings towards you? Commenter. And who cares that his wife is upset? His wife's sister was a little mean. Suddenly the sky is falling. Commenter. When it's just her, she's a hormonal bitch. But when the kid suddenly looks at him differently, then maybe it really is him who is the baddie. Outside perspective, I get. Commenter. How old is the younger sister? If she's attractive and in the romance-able age range, he might have a crush. And the crush's opinions matters more than the old, ball-and-chain cheating wife. Commenter. Because of course she must be. What else would anyone do while traveling for work? Commenter. Or while his wife was traveling for work. Another comment. He still does not understand how his showing a lack of trust in me is comparable, sir. I mean, he just thought you might be a cheating whore, no big deal. Commenter. Exactly. And now he thinks she's a bad partner because she is making him pay his own bills. Commenter. He's a leech. Plain and simple. OP's life would be far simpler and easier once she cuts him off and will only have to take care of herself and baby. Commenter. He genuinely thinks he's entitled to all her love, all her faithfulness, and all her money, while giving nothing in return but scorn and suspicion. He thinks that is the correct way of things. I hope she divorces him. Sooner rather than later. He'll never survive on his own. He's going to stick around for 5 more years to pay that debt down because he doesn't have to pay any rent and then move on. Another comment. Funny that being accused of cheating has caused you to reconsider your thoughts on the marriage. Gee, I wonder why. He doesn't like that your family is icing him out? Too funny, as it seems pretty obvious that he has zero self-awareness and zero understanding of how his actions have impacted you. Frankly, OP, you are right to rethink your commitment to him. His very actions towards you have shown that he does not have that level of commitment towards you. What is his next outlandish and childish act going to be? Yeah, the baby is his, but the underlying accusation that went with the paternity test, infidelity, has still stained you. I would continue to separate all finances and get your ducks in order. You've already spoken to the lawyer about a post-nup, so you should consider drafting your divorce papers. He doesn't understand the almost irreparable damage that he has caused the marriage. Again, zero awareness. I guess the question that you have to ask yourself is, can you live with him? All other red flags aside, can you live with the fact he does not trust you? He may say he does, but that is BS. He wouldn't have called for a paternity test if he did. Now add in all the other red flags and ask yourself, can you live with this? Can you bring your child up in a household where one partner does not pull his weight and doesn't trust the other? Update me. ATA for refusing to take my girlfriend home from a party after she embarrassed herself. A coworker invited me to a housewarming party. He bought a really nice house with a large yard, pool, and even a waterfall flowing into the pool. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily friends with him, but we're friendly and make small talk when we see each other. We don't really hang out by ourselves. He's a nice guy, but we don't have too many interests. He told me I can bring my girlfriend. At that party, I knew about 3 out of the 40 people there. At the party, my girlfriend began complaining to me about the food options, saying they don't follow her diet, she can't eat them, the host should have gotten better food, the paintings on the wall are tacky, his furniture sucks, that the music is pretty lame, and a bunch of other ridiculous complaints. We live in São Paulo at the moment, but we're from a region in southern Brazil, where most people speak Hunsrück, which is a type of German, though it's a bit distinct from standard German. Someone from Germany wouldn't understand everything I say. She complained in Hunsrück, assuming that everyone at the party only knew Portuguese, but my coworker was near us, and he said what I guess is standard German. I'm sorry we don't have any food that fits your dietary restrictions. If you are hungry, there is a store about 400 meters from here. It closes in an hour. I'm sorry you don't appreciate the music selection. Would you like to play something? My girlfriend looked shocked. Her jaw dropped and she just stuttered for a bit. A few people snicker in the back, and another guy translates what happened, and she responded back in Portuguese. How do you all know German? I had no idea. And my coworker explains he and 3 other people in this party used to work in Germany, and that's how they know each other. My girlfriend pulled me aside and said she's so embarrassed and wants to go home. I told her no, I'm having a good time here, and she's begging me to bring her back, saying she's so embarrassed and she can't handle this. I told her she shouldn't talk shit about people, and she's getting what she deserved. This broke out into a screaming match. She demanded I give her the car keys, and I refused. We stayed at the party for another 2 to 3 hours. She talked to some other girls, but was kind of quiet. On the ride home, we got into another argument, where she says I should have taken her side, and I unleashed a lot of my frustration onto her, saying she is actually the one causing embarrassment by insulting my coworker. She blamed me for not telling her he speaks German. I told her that wasn't irrelevant, and I never thought to bring it up. I honestly didn't know he spoke it that well. He just briefly mentioned living in Germany once at a meeting. So yeah, was I in the wrong here? Relevant comment. NTA. At the end of the day, she did play a stupid game and won a befittingly stupid prize. At least it's just embarrassment. From the context provided, it doesn't seem like anyone else made a big deal about the things she said. I don't think you should be obligated to take her side, being that she was the cause of the embarrassing moment. Also, saying rude things, expecting nobody to be able to understand her, makes her the AHIMO. Commenter. There's no question here about her being the AH or not. This behavior is a red flag where she says OP must have taken her side. If she was remorseful at least, it'd be a different case. Commenter. Even if she was remorseful, that would only be due to getting caught. Not much of a different case, nothing. Commenter. This is true too. The girlfriend sounds like a chore to be around. However, sometimes, otherwise nice people may make shit decisions when circumstances push them to. She may have been exhausted or something like that. But judging by the fact that she wasn't remorseful seals the deal. OP needs to think hard of whether this is what he wants in an RS. Another comment. Your NTA. Your girlfriend is incredibly rude and hopefully taught herself an important lesson about talking smack and insulting her host, or anyone else, for that matter. Better think about that little glimpse into your future, if you choose to stay with that woman. Commenter. Yes, honestly, break up with her. It's not just embarrassing herself, it is embarrassing you in front of your colleagues, people that are part of your career and livelihood. She seems like a miserable person and someone that can't be made happy, but also can't bear being polite for the entirety of a party, all while being extremely judgmental. She showed her true colors. Commenter. She also made herself even more embarrassing by screaming at OP to take her home. Not sure she's learned anything about herself and her need to modify her behavior, unfortunately. She knew none of these people. She had no basis for assuming none of them would be able to understand her, and also shouldn't have been talking smack anyway. Commenter. Yeah, it's the whole her being rude, ungrateful, judgmental, entitled, etc. in any language. This is who she is, and she blatantly showed who she is. She might be embarrassed she got called out, but she's definitely not sorry because she proceeded to argue with him in the car, to take her side, meaning she saw nothing wrong with what she did. Another comment. Mostly this is just awkward for everyone else at the party. Having a screaming match at someone else's party is not cool. ESH, you should have left, out of decency. ESH hard agree. It made it uncomfortable for all involved, including the host. Even if my GF was totally in the wrong, I still love them and would bring them home. I would not enjoy to watch them suffer. Idea for not ordering any food, so I wouldn't have to split the bill? I, 27M, have been a part of a small friend group, around 8 people total, basically since college. For some background, 2 people from the group, Susan and Greg, are just absolute leeches. Going out for lunch? Expect them to order the most expensive on the menu, then feed you some sob story about their finances, and then dumb half the bill on you. Last weekend, Dan, one of the people from the group, told me about a casual dinner. I told him how if Susan or Greg were there, I wouldn't be able to come. He tells me that they would be there, but I should just put my opinions aside and come just once. This is kind of where I might be in AH. I agreed with him and told him I would be there. I show up and we all get to talking. Everyone began putting in their orders. Most of them spent about $40. There were only about 6 people there. When it gets to Susan and Greg, they both order expensive dishes, around $200. When it was my turn to order, everyone looked at me, but I just pick up the menu and point to the $4 Miller Lite and sent the waiter away. Dan asked why I hadn't ordered anything, and all I said was that I lost my appetite. The other 2 friends got up as well to cancel their orders and just have drinks. After the main courses came out, I saw Susan and Greg picking at their food. The waiter then brings over the check. Greg then grabs the waiter and asks him to split the check 6 ways. I stand up and correct him, saying the check was to be split 3 ways. Greg looks at me confused and asks why, since we always split the bill. I reminded him that 3 of us had not eaten any food, that we would just be paying for our drinks. So basically at the end of the night, Dan, who probably only ate around $50 worth of food, was stuck with a $146.98 check at the end. Yes, I remember the exact number. I swear I saw his jaw drop when he picked that receipt up. I slid a $10 towards the check, said goodbye everyone, and walked out. The next morning, I found my phone full of texts from Greg and Susan, telling me I was an AH for not ordering any food and forcing them to pay more than they had accounted for. I honestly laughed because the stakes alone were more than what they had paid, but to each their own, right? I also got a lot of messages from Dan saying that I could have just not came instead of pulling that stunt and getting him stuck with an outrageous bill. Edit. At this restaurant, the bar is separate, so drinks are on a separate bill, if that makes sense. And if anyone is concerned about leaving a tip, I live in Australia. Edit 2. Hey guys, just wanted to clarify some things. 1. 90% of restaurants where I live, they don't do separate checks and might separate the bill for you if you're lucky. BW, this post is in AUD, so if you want the amounts in USD, you have to convert it. 2. Dan could have easily asked Greg and Susan to transfer him the money if he wanted, but he's always been about helping them through their financial hardship, even though they're just using him and keeps dragging me into it. I admit what I did was immature, but I'm tired of being forced to play along. It's his money, and if he wants to spend it on them, that's fine. But I'm not paying for that. 3. Also, Dan's a really good friend of mine, albeit blind AF. I was just trying to get him to see what kind of people he was helping. I will admit it was a tad bit petty. Blah. Thank you for the gold. Relevant comment, NTA. Is it not possible to ask the waiter for separate checks? I.e., everyone gets their own check for what they ordered ahead of time? While some people think this is a little tacky, it's not anywhere near as tacky as ordering a meal that costs 5 times as much as anyone else's and expecting them to cover it. It's not very common in Australia. It's just usually common courtesy to just order within what everyone else is ordering, so you can split the check at the end. Most restaurants refuse as well, but I get your point. Commenter. Just usually common courtesy to just order within what everyone else is ordering. These 2 people are repeatedly, openly leeching off the rest of you. The solution here seems to be to stop inviting them out, or being friends with them. They've left. Common courtesy so far behind it's a forgotten concept and elevated taking the to an entirely new level. Commenter. Or order something that costs even more than what they ordered, if you can afford it, just to make a point. Hell, order 2 entrees and take 1 home. Commenter. I like this OP. Save up if you have to. Call it the Susan and Greg Spite Fund. Another comment. Even if you were actually not hungry, I would still say NTA. They clearly premeditated this whole event and expected others to take the financial fall for their lifestyle. Hope Dan opens his eyes, but right now they seem superglued shut. Good for you though, Op. Yeah, they do this all the time. I guess I was feeling a little cheeky that night. Dan's a bit stubborn. I wouldn't be surprised if he still thinks I was in the wrong and not them. Commenter. Dan's an idiot. He should have just paid for his meal and let the other two figure it out. Dan has only himself to blame here. Another comment. NTA. I thought what you did was brilliant. You started by saying you would not attend if the leeches were there. Your friend Dan wanted you to come anyway, so you did, but on your own terms. The moment you ordered only a beer, that was a signal that every adult at the restaurant should have recognized, especially because the bar bill is separate from the food, that you were not eating, two others were not eating, thus obviously not splitting a bill for dinner. I bet Dan will not be so quick to include Susan and Greg again.